The past few years have been a massive disappointment for Marvel, not just on streaming, where Disney Plus has lost $1.5 billion just over the last 3 months, but of course also at the box office, including two major disappointments, with Thor: Love and Thunder barely cracking $750 million worldwide, and of course Wakanda Forever, the follow-up to Black Panther, with a disappointing $800 million. We've heard a lot of excuses for these things. Oh, well, it's the pandemic. People aren't going to go out to theaters anymore. Well, Avatar 2 has just completely and totally shot that excuse down. It no longer exists, and now Marvel's forced to deal with the reality that their box office releases have been disappointing. Avatar 2 box office blows by Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And not only now is it blown by Black Panther, which is still in theaters, will still make a few more $1 million, but really, it's pretty much dead at $800 million worldwide. But it also passed Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which means that in just 12 days, Avatar 2: The Way of Water has already outpaced every single Marvel release this year. That is embarrassing for Marvel, but it's an indicator of where the MCU is at. Avatar: The Way of Water jumps to $955 million worldwide through Monday, will hit $1 billion with Tuesday grosses. And this is despite a somewhat disappointing domestic and international opening weekend. And it's despite a massive winter snowstorm shutting down large portions of the United States. Even with all those things factored in, Avatar 2 is still sitting at $1 billion worldwide, or at least will be after the numbers for today on Tuesday actually come through. And when you look at this number right here, $955 million, as I said, this is more than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at $952. Now, remember that opening weekend for Doctor Strange was $450 million worldwide. And it ended at 950. This thing stalled out fast. It had a massive drop. It had no legs whatsoever. And that's really the story of every single Marvel release this year. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, same thing. Big opening weekend, really not many legs to speak of. Thor: Love and Thunder, same exact thing at $760 million. And the real problem for these two movies specifically is that their budget was $250 million, more than most Marvel movies are. So there's really not a whole lot of room in there for profits, especially with the reported marketing costs for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now, of course, when it does come to Avatar, we can't ignore what James Cameron said. He said it needs to be around like the third best movie of all time to actually break even. Now, I think he was being a little bit hyperbolic with that. With the numbers we've seen, estimated a $460 million budget potentially. And of course, you got to factor in $150, maybe even $200 million in marketing. I think this movie probably needs to do close to $1.5 to $1.6 billion based on this domestic to international split. Remember, the studio does not get as much money from the international box office as it does domestically. A little over 50%, maybe 55%, depending on the movie, depending on the studio, for the domestic box office. Only about 40% for international and only 25% from China. All that needs to be factored in. With all that being said, still, this thing's going to cross $1 billion with only 12 days of release. What was the excuse for all these movies not making $1 billion like a lot of people initially expected them to? Well, COVID, people just aren't willing to go out with COVID, the pandemic. No, that's just not the case. That is blatantly not the case. Marvel has turned off their fan base. They don't have near the same amount of people going to their movies that they had before. Despite all of the just somewhat disappointing numbers initially from Avatar: Way of Water, despite this big winter snowstorm, when you do look at these things, only a 52% drop, or 53% drop, over the weekend. And still had a big 26th of December, $32 million on a Monday. You can only imagine that it's going to be pretty good the rest of the week with the holidays, with a lot of people taking their families. And I think that this is a movie a lot of families are going to like. It's a strong family message. The thing is about families. It's about a father protecting his family. And I honestly just think there's a craving for that right now. When you look at the success of Top Gun Maverick, $1.5 billion worldwide, that was a fairly simple story about a man who was willing to do whatever it took to take care of the people that he cared about. Now, it wasn't necessarily his direct family, but he certainly thought of it as his family. And now already the second biggest movie of 2020 2022? Is Avatar 2, The Way of Water? Is it a perfect movie? Absolutely not. I do think it's good, and I think it's resounding with families. That's one of the reasons we're seeing this over the Christmas holidays. But there's no doubt that this is an indictment of Marvel. This is an indictment of Wakanda Forever, of Thor Love and Thunder, all these things. They've been trying to make excuses. The media has been running cover for them. But when you do have success like Top Gun Maverick, when you do have a success like Avatar, you can no longer hide from the reality. It's not simply that people aren't willing to go to the box office anymore. They are under the right conditions. They'll even brave the, freezing temperatures to go out there, as we saw through this winter storm. But not as many people are willing to go out there for the MCU, for Marvel, when it's clear that they no longer care about entertaining people, that it's all purely based on identity politics, and people would rather go watch something else. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.